Welcome to the Pinning Combination Podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher alongside Hall of Famer Dick Briggs, ready to talk a little high school and college wrestling this morning. We have a lot to get to. We'll take a look at last week's results from both high school and college, and then we'll look ahead and preview what's coming up, especially big weekend for college teams. High school teams are right in the thick of their season as the championship season, conference, duals, regional, state, quickly approaching. Briggsy, how are you doing this morning?
Doing good. Got a little snow on the ground, so I got to get out and shovel after we're done here.
I know, right? We've been babied. It's been a mild winter. Haven't had too much, so now that we have some, it's a little bit of a shock to the system waking up and seeing the snow, but it shouldn't be. And it's not a shock to see who we have joining us today. Outstanding coach, outstanding program at Alburnett. We're lucky to have with us Alburnett Coach Clayton Rush. Clayton, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Like I said, like Dick said, not really looking forward to getting home and shoveling that snow tonight.
Okay, so here's my thing. You have a roster full of wrestlers who always could use an extra workout. How come you're not getting a few guys that might be a little heavy to come out? And
I ask enough of them as is, and I like to use the word torture, but I use it lightly.
Okay.
I torture these guys regularly that I'm sure they would. They would, if I needed help, if I need a lending hand, they would, but I like to leave those guys alone when I'm not around them.
That's cool. I know when I was in high school and I kind of complain about something, the first thing Dad would do is pull the shovel out and say, "Here you go. Bundle up, Get out there and get a sweat going." So
I've got an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old, all daughters.
Okay.
And, I've got some small shovels for them. They come out and help me with. So,
and you know what? Knowing how the determination of you and Ashley, your wife, and the competitors you are, I bet you if you unleashed them out there and made it some type of competition, that they would kill it.
Yeah, well, we had a light dusting of snow not long ago. It was a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and that's what it was. It was a little bit of a competitive. I'm going to do more rows than you, and somebody got mad because they weren't getting the snow that was left behind, and it was my row, and yeah. So you're not wrong.
Well, Alburnett off to putting together a great season right now. Right at the top of the 1A rankings, along with Don Bosco. Two teams have kind of separated themselves from the field in 1A. You guys are coming off a second straight dominant tournament performance, this time winning the Cedar Rapids Jefferson Jayhawk on Saturday. Clayton, how would you describe the way this season has gone for you and the Pirates?
I mean, you kind of said it right there. Dominant so far. These guys just, like you said, it's just a team full of wrestlers. And we have guys on our team that are multiple sport athletes. We have guys on our team that are strictly wrestlers. But nonetheless, they're putting in the extra time. And, Rowdy Neighbor said this last year after he won state. And, he gave a lot of credit to his success to the offseason. And a lot of these guys are putting in time in the offseason, again, whether they're multiple sport athletes or just a wrestler. And the guys that are just wrestlers, they'd almost make them, it's their full-time sport year-round. And they give themselves breaks and different things like that. But you just have a team full of wrestlers. And so far, that extra time that they've put in has allowed them to be dominant so far. And I say so far just because we know what's ahead of us.
Right. And you speak about the offseason. Allie DeWitt's grandpa plays golf right in the foursome ahead of me, so I see him every Tuesday during the summer. And he mentioned, I think Allie was a Fargo qualifier, wasn't he?
Yep, he was a Fargo qualifier. Rowdy Neighbors, a Fargo qualifier. Preston Klosterman, Fargo qualifier. Owen Henriksen's a Fargo qualifier. He didn't make the trip, but he did qualify. So, there's 4 guys right there, and when you break it down to just like a 1A school, 4 guys makes a huge difference. And fortunately, we have a few more than 4 guys that are pretty dang tough. Biased opinion.
Just looking at the latest results, as we said, this blows my mind because Waukee Northwest, quality program in 3A, you guys won by 81 points at the Jayhawk. You mentioned Rowdy Neighbor, one of your champs. There on Saturday as well. I mean, it seemed like you had just about everybody. I think 11 of your 14 wrestlers were in the semifinals. You went 10-1, in that round as well. I mean, does it kind of blow your mind? I mean, I know the goal is to go in and win every match. But do you ever sit back and just kind of think, wow, we're tearing things up.
Yeah, this senior class right now is, they're different. They're different, and then it trickles down all the way down to the freshman class. And one thing that I've really been trying to do, and I have a really good relationship with this senior class. I've done a lot with this class and both on the mat and off the mat. And so one thing that I've been really trying to do is just kind of embrace these last few months with them. And that's every day in practice too, So very rarely does any program get what I've been spoiled with right now. And in the past too, is just a room of guys that are willing to put it on the line like consistently. And it's fun to watch, it's fun to coach. And so, yeah, I've been trying to step out of the box and appreciate and embrace what we have, because it's a rarity. It is. You wish you could bottle it up and have it each year, but just not something that happens.
Right, and you mentioned your senior group. You had 7. I saw that wrestled at the Jayhawk, and I know you have others in the room as well. You got parents like Brent Neighbor, who's a wrestling official, a wonderful man, and so I expect Rowdy and his older son to be a good guy as well as that coach. With that group that you're talking about, tell me about I call it the Shalista effect. And so tell me, how does kind of talk about the Shalista family there and how they're still affecting and helping with the Alburnett program?
Yeah, I mean, you have the barn, and everybody knows it as the barn. And I would say of the starting seniors in our lineup, we have 2 of them that, well, one for sure didn't do the barn because River Williams didn't start wrestling until he was a freshman.
Wow.
Shaden Washburn, I think he may have went to the barn early and then kind of did the basketball thing. And Reese Klosterman was a barn, and then he's his own person, and he missed out on years of learning what a whizzer was and like stuff like that. But everybody's been through there at some point. And that's like off-season workouts right now. Sometimes they go out to the barn with a coach and they get their workout in. So they're familiar with the barn and what it represents and what it demands from you, and the standard out there. So the Shalista family, obviously, like I always say, I'm the head coach of Alburnett. Like I get the credit, but I mean, Brett Shalista has been working with these guys since they were 3-4 years old. And I don't think that that's something that should or can get overlooked.
You know,
but before we move on, you and I, KJ and I know kind of what the barn is, but for listeners, describe the barn itself.
It's a couple miles east of town, and it's out in the country on a hog farm. And they turned a big shed into a wrestling room that originally started in the basement of the Shalista family house, and it was like one section of mat maybe. And then they would start bringing down guys from Denver and like Sorensen's and Wolfensbergers, Dylan Peters, and like all those guys would come down and train. And they started to grow a little bit, just the club itself. And then they moved it out to Dick Shalista is the grandpa, and that was his shed. And they kind of said, "Hey, we're gonna turn this into a wrestling room." And obviously, he was fine with it and whatever. But they made the renovation, and so it's just a big shed out in the country on a hog farm. And right now, we've got about 60 kids that cycle through there a couple nights a week.
So I just wanted to just backtrack really quick. We mentioned Rowdy Neighbor, but Preston Klosterman, Reese Klosterman, and Shaden Washburn also won titles there at the Jayhawk. You talked a little bit about Shaden and just kind of the, I guess, the way he's become a student of the game, of the sport. Learning intricacies. He talked about how, he's really kind of opened up, going with coaches, going with different guys to try to learn things. One, how have you seen that growth from Shaden after his third place finish at state last year? And second of all, what's it like to work with a group that's so receptive and is so devoted to just kind of being their best? I'm assuming that makes not your job easier, but makes it more conducive to everybody kind of raising their game.
Yeah, so Shaden, it's been really cool because he took third last year, and then coming out of that tournament on that podium, and if you look at the podium picture, it's wild to me. You have Kyler Kanak, you have Kellen Smith, and then you have Shaden Washburn. And I mean, that's pretty impressive. That's the third best guy in that bracket on that weekend. And he come out of that weekend, and he just had all the confidence in the world. And for a lot of kids, that's a big hurdle to overcome, is confidence. And so like when the season started, he was a pretty confident person, and he still is. But what you're finding now, and you kind of touched on it, is his curiosity about the sport. So he's wanting to know, different techniques, or not different techniques, but techniques that fit within his wrestling style. And so, his older brother Hunter, they've never really crossed paths of working out and things like that. And like I said, he's just starting to get curious, because I think he sees something that he can go get, and it's very attainable in the state title. And so he wants to be the best version of himself, and he's using all the resources around him that he can. Like you said, he's using coaches. He's done some extra workouts with Hunter, and Hunter does a really good job. He's such a great communicator. And so you see things like last night. I saw one little position where I was watching him wrestle, and he did something I hadn't seen before. And I asked him, I'm like, "Hey, where'd you learn that?" And he's like, "Well, I just been working in some of these positions and trying to find different ways to score." And I'm like, oh, like that is really cool. Because not only are you teaching them about wrestling, like you have to do that in life sometimes. You have to learn about different avenues to be successful in life. And that's really cool. That's really cool from his standpoint. So yeah, that's a Shaden Washburn. I can't remember your second question now.
Just how, it seems to be indicative of this group of wrestlers that you've had. You mentioned the seniors, and just the way they seem so devoted to, one, to learning the sport, two, to pushing each other to be their best. I mean, as a coach, that's got to be quite the asset for them to be that devoted to pushing each other too.
Yeah, like I said earlier, they spoil me because I can lay things out in front of them, and I know that they'll go after it. And that can be something as simple as a drill. It can be something as simple as conditioning, live wrestling, who you're going with, why you're going with them. Like last night, I had Dawson Becker in a group of 3, and one of them was Preston Klosterman, and they don't typically wrestle. And after practice, he went up to pee, and he said, "Hey, I got to wrestle you more. You make me move.
That's
You
awesome.
make me move and things like that." And, like, I wasn't prompted. It wasn't anything. That just came from him. And so it's pretty special. But I think the one thing and I said I was pretty close with this senior class. When they were in 8th grade, and they still are, they were stinkers in 8th grade and before. And so I knew that them coming through was going to be really beneficial for our program and our school. And I had to get my thumb on them in some way. And so we had a little deal where if one of them got in trouble in any way, shape, or form, and I didn't go searching for it, but if they got in trouble, then we had a workout. And instead of a detention, we had a 30-minute workout, and none of them were easy. And one thing that I think that I got from them was their respect, because I would do it with them. And so they see that in time. And then, right now, I'll get on the mat with them and battle with them, and they respect that. And so, from the standpoint of Dawson Becker asking Preston Klosterman to go live more because he makes him better, I think comes from just little things like that. And I'm not taking the credit for that at all, but that's them learning that skill of giving it back.
So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but let's go a little deeper. Obviously, with Brett Schlista, yourself, and the actual wrestlers in the room coaching themselves. But tell us the rest of your coaching staff, kind of the peripheral volunteers and others. You mentioned.
We get a hard time here at Alburnett because we have 9 coaches. So it's myself, Brett Schulista, then you've got Brett Wapp, who is our middle school coach, and he does a great job of getting kids out. We say this here, the barn isn't meant for everybody. It's a pretty intense atmosphere, honestly, and so some kids just kind of weed away from it for whatever reason, and then WAP does a really good job of getting them back out in that middle school time. Then you've got Josh Henriksen, who has probably I'm gonna make him sound, but probably double the years I have coaching or more. And so he's been around the sport for a long time. Caleb Studebaker, who is, helps out with some junior high, but is our JV coach.
Former Indy kid,
yeah, Indy. And so we got him. We've got Tyler Schulista, who's been around the block, Tucker Franklin, who has been around the block. And he actually is really fun to coach with because he's got a general curiosity about the sport as well. And he loves coaching kids through unconventional positions, just say that. So when we have some guys that are not your traditional Iowa style type wrestlers, he's one that grabs them and likes to work with them. And then you got Drake Halblum, former alum, did his little stint of college wrestling, so he's got some good experience. And then Corey Becker, who is a former Bosco guy, but he's a Cohawk All-American heavyweight, so we like having him around too.
You mentioned how you kind of maybe not necessarily earn the respect, but you doing the workouts with them maybe change their attitude or alter things that help the relationship with them. Are they aware how much of a butt kicker their coach was in college? Are they aware of your history and your accomplishments as a competitor?
I mean, they're aware of my accomplishments. When I get in scrap, I have to bring a higher level with some guys than I do the other. Age isn't treating me well, nor is it treating my body well. So they don't get quite the glimpse maybe, but I think so. And I think there was some respect there from them too, like knowing I've been there and different things like that. But, you know, I don't know if I would do those workouts with every group.
Sure.
I just know what type of kids they are. And if you're going to sit there and make them do something torturous and not torture yourself too, then you're not going to gain it. But yeah, I mean, I think they know, but I don't think they're going back and watching film or anything like that.
Sure. So here, I want to go back to when you were at Co, because from covering you, from what I remember, Ostendorf was one of the first ones knocking on your door or heavily wanting you to be there. And then I think you had an outstanding junior national duels, maybe. And then you started having like more D1 offers, but yet you had committed to Co and you stayed loyal to the one that was there from the very beginning. You could have chased something up, you know, and with daughters that are in high school and seeing kind of a D1 thing be more of a status accomplishment and wanting to go chase that instead of maybe a D2 or D3 place that's actually going to be your home. What was it that kind of led to you remaining loyal and coming to Co when you could have gone elsewhere at a different level or whatever? But Co was where you wanted.
Yeah. Actually, my junior year, I was a Wartburg Knight. Like I was going.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I wore a Wartburg shirt at the state tournament. Like I was going there. I didn't commit or anything, but that was just the school I wanted to be at. They were, you know, they're winners. They're winners there, and it's proven every year. But I got in front of Coach O, and ultimately I wanted a small school. I knew that from an academic standpoint, I had to work hard for the grades that I got, and I knew that a smaller class atmosphere would only benefit me. And at a smaller school, everything's smaller, class size, wrestling roster. Your friend groups are, you know, tighter. They're more focused. So I knew that's what I wanted. And I listened to some of the D1s, Central Michigan, Illinois, those kinds of guys. Hofstra called a couple times, but Illinois and Central Michigan were the big ones. But I just knew that I didn't want to go sit. I didn't want a red shirt. So kind of to your point, like it being a status a little bit, I didn't really feel that way. I just knew that the smaller school atmosphere was what I needed to be successful. And I think both on and off the mat, quite frankly. Some people will argue like you would have been fine D1, but on and off the mat was a smaller D3 school was most appropriate for me. But Coach O came in the picture, and I mean, we've all been in front of Coach O and he gets fired up, and I knew that's what I wanted. That's the guy that I wanted to go to bat for, and he drove down to that junior duels performance that you were just talking about, and I'd beaten a kid that I hadn't beaten. I beat Zach Sanders, and I never had beaten him. Greco wasn't Zach Sanders' forte, so let's not be fooled. But I beat him, and he knew that there was going to be some schools entering the picture, and I don't know, they didn't appease me. And Coach O, like I said, you sit in front of him, you hear him get excited about what could be, and there was an opportunity there for me to go compete right away. And again, my thought was smaller school is important, and then being able to wrestle right away. I didn't want to sit. I wanted to earn what I was going to get, but I didn't want to sit. And some of those schools, other D3 schools, and even obviously those D1 schools were like, hey, you can come sit behind this guy for a year and whatever else. And that just wasn't, I didn't really take to that very well. So, plus, man, Coach O he's awesome.
So it's refreshing for me to hear you with your priorities, or at least your list of what you use to to determine co. And I love hearing academics, if not first, very high, and you're having more success academically. And I wish more athletes would do that. And you're right. There's some athletes that even I've coached that it's that D1 status thing you were talking about, KJ, that want to go to D1 and then end up fizzling out and never having a chance. And so now, if I remember right, Clayton, that you co-wrestled Iowa back in the day, didn't they, when you were there? And I never quite understood that. I never quite understood that from an Iowa standpoint, or maybe even a co for that matter. To go in and wrestle, one of the best D1 teams in the nation. But as I recall, you did quite well in those duels.
Actually, the first year we dueled him, McDonough rolled me up like a pretzel, I feel like, and he teched me, I want to say, like, early second period. It was kind of humbling and eye-opening for me, I went into that match, and I got to give my now wife, Ashley, she's a competitor, and KJ knows her.
I'm going to ask about her here in a second, too. So.
All right. And leading up into that first match, I was like, I'm beating him. And I was real intense about it and all the time, and I'm beating him and whatever. And I didn't beat him. He embarrassed me. And then the second year, there was some things technically that I wanted to clean up he made me a better wrestler. I bet for 3 weeks leading up into that match, I wrestled Dustin Hinchberger multiple times a week. And every time I got to his legs, I could not go to the mat. Couldn't go to the mat because Matt McDonough was going to sit the corner on you. He was going to cut the corner. He's going to cradle you. And so every finish, every leg attack was to your feet, on your feet, never hitting a knee. And don't bore yourself and go back and watch that match, but I hit one knee at one point in the match, and it was at the very end. I'm down 4-2, and what's he do? He cradles me and turns me for 5, and then a ride time point, so he beat me 10-2. But I don't go back and regret not attacking. I could have just stayed in front of him and lost 4-2, But yeah. So it was a really humbling experience, and but also good for me. Back to my wife, she was like, "Hey, why don't you just go wrestle and just see what happens? Like, have some perspective. It's not the end all be all. It's fine." I'm like, "Well, maybe I'll try that."
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, and she was a high level pitcher in D3. I think she was like second or third all time in strikeouts when she graduated.
Right.
So she for her to stick her neck out there and tell me to calm down for a minute was much needed and necessary.
Carries an impact there, and that's part of the D3. It could happen anywhere, but look at what you gain at Co. In addition to what you accomplished, but your family pretty much started there. Obviously, meeting Ashley, and then the 3 daughters that we talked about earlier,
and a boy on the way.
And one on the way. Congratulations.
Yeah, boy this time. All right.
Now, what I have to ask is, I remember a little bit of a contest maybe where you stepped in the batter's box against her.
Yeah.
How did that fare?
Well, she cheated to start. So I stepped out of the batter's box and I said, "Hey, why don't you just pitch a few so I can, have some sort of idea. I've never done this before." And her first pitch was literally right at my feet in the box. And I'm like, "What was that?" You should be able to throw it right down the pipe every time. And she said, "I don't know where the ball's going. I just throw it as hard as I can." And I'm like, so I'm like looking around. I went and grabbed a helmet. I'm like, we don't know what's going to happen here. And then she actually gave me 3 good pitches the first time, and I fouled one of them off, and I didn't have a chance with the others. And then the second time we did it, I think I fouled 2 off and didn't have a chance at the third one. So she struck me out twice, but she won't pitch to me now, she says. She said she doesn't have it anymore.
Oh, okay.
Put that on record.
This is something that got brought up. I can't believe, Dick, we hadn't asked this regularly to our guests, but Tim Johnson when he was our guest, actually shared his favorite pinning combination. Since that's the name of the podcast, I think we should do this with every guest now.
Yeah.
Clay, what was your go-to? What was your go-to
Well,
when you were looking to deck somebody in competition?
I was not a mat wrestler. I wanted to be on my feet, and so my pinning combinations weren't very sharp. If anything was to happen by fall, if you go back and look, I would say they'd probably be like pancakes from your feet. Guys would shoot doubles from space, and I'd hit a pancake. Not a lot came from the top position. So, unfortunately, I would have to say probably a pancake was my most effective pinning combination. I would say now, and I learned to be a little biased here because I'm at Alburnett, but that butcher that these boys run is awesome. Like, it is awesome. And if they do it right and they have, it's really cool. And actually, when I first got here, I knew Alburnett was known for the butcher. And so I would go back to Co every so often and scrap with some of the guys that I knew and I was close with. And I just remember thinking, like, this can't work. Like, it took me a whole year, 2 years to realize, like, it does work. It can't work. So I'd go back and I'd be on top and I'd try that butcher. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it worked. So I would say that butcher is pretty fun to watch.
You know, we've kind of mentioned it. 1A, there seems to be you guys and Don Bosco. Wilton, really, really close. It was a fun duel that you and Wilton had early in the season, and then you guys really pulled away from them at the Gary Curtis, winning by 106 points the week before the Jayhawk. What's it like to have programs like that really kind of push you and you guys compete against, and to have that competition kind of going forward with Don Bosco and Wilton?
I mean, go back to the Matt McDonough, training for that Matt McDonough match the second time. He forced me to be a better wrestler, and not just against him, but against everybody. Like, really, there's no reason to hit a knee in a match, if any guy has some sort of skill scrambling. And so these other programs, they've got good programs, so you got to find a way to win. Whether it's bumping your lineup or weighing guys in at different weights, or leaving them where they are because, for whatever reason. And I'll say, like, I know Bosco's going through some adversity in their program. We're going through some adversity in our program. Wilton didn't have a full lineup at that Gary Curtis invite you just referenced. Okay. So, you look at those things, and honestly, when you run into them at state duels, you just try to be the best version of yourself. And like Ashley said, just relax a minute. It'll be all right. And so you just throw it out there and compete, and then everything else will take care of itself. But it's awesome having them on. It's awesome having them here because, like I said, if they're not here pushing us, then how much better are we really trying to get every day?
Right. You kind of talked about some of your elite wrestlers. Is there anyone that's been kind of a surprise for you that's maybe getting close to that level, or anything that's been, all right, this is a nice surprise this year?
Yeah, I would say, I talked a little bit about River Williams earlier. I would say of anybody in our lineup, he's probably got the least amount of experience and starting as a freshman. And he is maximizing his results through his potential. And he really is. Like, his athletic ceiling is this high, but his work ethic is here. And so he's really putting extra time in. He does things after practice. And so the one thing that is really cool about him too is, like Shaden, he's kind of got a general curiosity about wrestling, and he wants to get better in different positions and things like that. But like I said, those levels that he offers, we just don't have that much time right now. And so we have to stick to what he is really, best at. Do we build on some of those other areas? Yes, we do, but we can't forget what makes them successful, what made them a state qualifier last year. So, I would say River's a really good one, really good. We have some freshmen that came in that are tough. Owen Hendrickson, Egan Fleshman, like those guys are tough, and they're fun to coach and fun to watch.
Been really
I
impressed.
don't know River. Oh, sorry. I don't know River real well, but I know his dad very well.
Yeah, I was gonna say you probably Yep, Jeff.
He wrestled for me at Jefferson.
Yeah. Yep.
I was just gonna say, been very impressed with both Owen and Egan this season. Also Saturday, somebody that kind of caught my eye a little bit, JJ Callahan. I know talking to you that he was an individual that's been a JV wrestler his first 3 years in the lineup now. And what's he do? He makes it to the semis of the Jayhawk and gets 4th overall, which, in a field like that and somebody that's kind of had to kind of wait their opportunity, that was something that I thought was pretty impressive. And it just kind of shows the depth that you have, not just in the lineup, but in the program overall.
Yeah. JJ's one that he called me a utility guy. Hey, JJ, we need you down at this weight. Okay. And he goes, hey, JJ, we need you up at this weight. Okay. There he goes. Like at Indy, he wrestled 150. He weighed in at 44, so it didn't mess up his descent plane. Wrestled at Indy, and I want to say he was 7th, maybe somewhere in there. He's a tough wrestler. He just has there's just really tough kids around him for him not to be varsity up until this year, and he's really stepping into it. His prior to being varsity, his goal this year is to be dual state champs. And he tells me he lays in bed and thinks about not getting pinned in the state finals.
Really?
Yeah, to win it. Yeah. And now, his role has changed. But the one cool thing is he wants to be a state qualifier, and he very well could be. He could be a state placer. And then it's also to be a dual state champ. So for somebody like him to get this opportunity, he's put 3 years in and, again, been a utility guy and done only ever what I've asked of him is awesome. And I hope that he really, really takes advantage of it.
I know the schedule coming up. You have duels at home against Mac Valley and North Cedar. Mac Valley, that'll be a fun 215-pound match there with Bites and Fleshman for sure. Saturday, you guys host the Alburnett duels. You have kind of a cool duel on the 30th against Mount Vernon before the Tri-Rivers Conference tournament at North Lynn February 1st, and then postseason's upon us. What is it going to take? What do you guys need to do to continue the success that you've had this season and accomplish those goals at state duels and down in Des Moines that you're chasing?
Just consistent training and addressing areas that we're good at and building on them. You have to keep getting better at the things you're good at, and then just bringing our bottom up as different techniques that are going to make us better wrestlers, awareness in different positions, and just having consistent training. Really, and that can go from weight management to what you're doing in practice, what's your effort in practice, what's your mindset in practice. And so just little things like that. And I think that's probably a pretty common theme through a lot of programs. But I think that our guys know that there's something out there for us to go get, and that makes it a little bit different every day.
Well, from what I've noticed with the strength of your schedule, that the district and the state tournament are going to be kind of smaller tournaments compared to some of them that you've been in this year. So it's not going to be so overwhelming to step in, into those arenas. So I think that your schedule has been nice to build to that point. So.
Yeah, and that's how it was when I got here. That wasn't any sort of genius move by me. I can't take credit for that one, but it does. It makes those higher pressure situations feel less like that because you've already been there on multiple occasions.
Awesome. Well, hey, Clayton, really appreciate you joining us on the Pinning Combination podcast today. As we mentioned, a great performance at the Cedar Rapids Jefferson Jayhawk, winning that over Waukee Northwest by 81 points. They've got duels Thursday at home. If there's anybody in the Alburnett area that hasn't gone seen a Pirate duel and watch this team compete, get out there and watch them and support them because it is really a special group led by a special staff as well. So you have the opportunity to do that Thursday when they host Maquoketa Valley and North Cedar, and then Saturday with the Alburnett duels. So get out there and check out a really dominant group and impressive group of competitors. Clayton, thank you very much. We appreciate it, and good luck with the rest of the season.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It was pretty fun.
Awesome.
Good luck.
Alburnett Coach Clayton Rush. So it's, he talked a little bit about the energy when you get Coach O in front of you and stuff like that. I think he's a coach also that, boy, love talking to him because you can just feel the excitement and the enthusiasm from you. It's no surprise that his wrestlers would run through a wall for him.
Right. And I'll even go another direction with the love that he has for not just the sport, but also his wrestlers and the families. So yeah, what a great role model.
I tell you what, I didn't bring it up, but at state duels last year, he was getting emotional talking about his wrestlers. He wasn't in full tear mode, but you could see things kind of welling up because we were talking about that junior class. I think after they had won in the semifinals, maybe, or maybe the quarterfinals, but talking to him about that group, you could just see the love and emotion that he has for those guys. And I'm sure there's no doubt that he pours every ounce of his himself into that group, and it sounds like they reciprocate that.
Right. And in Alburnett, I particularly enjoyed hearing the history of the barn. I didn't know the evolution of that, and both physically and the number of bodies, not just Alburnett, but number of bodies throughout the eastern Iowa here that have entered that barn to go through the tough wrestling there.
Yeah, when he mentioned the Denver guys, Peters and Wolfensbergers, and obviously Sorensen's coming down and being a part of that, that was kind of an eye opener. Going, oh my, the term elbow. Maybe this is an old, outdated term, but like with scraps, the term nothing but a-holes and elbows being thrown around. You know what I mean? My dad used to say that, but I could only imagine how that room was at the time.
Right. I mean, it's not, the very common saying now, iron sharpens iron, man. You get kids battling in there, and they're just going to make each other better.
Yep. Certainly a huge impact on that program, even back with Kane Thompson, another co-guy that was there, and then Clayton Rush has really carried on that tradition. And then, like you said, you have that bridge and that constant with the Chalistas who have been a part of that from the very beginning. So awesome there. Let's kind of backtrack. Let's talk about college before we finish off some of the high school stuff. Iowa had another big win. UNI had a big win out at Arizona State as well. But Iowa won 8 out of 10 against Illinois, number 9 Illinois on Friday night. 2 straight dominant performances. They've won 18 of their first 20 matches in Big Ten competition. Now they have Ohio State coming to town on Saturday. But what were your takeaways from the Iowa duel on Friday?
Well, if you recall on our last podcast, I didn't think it was going to be close. That I had Iowa beating Illinois, and they did. I mean, the team score was not close. However, there were some pretty close matches. There were two, based on rankings, two upsets. Iowa won both of those, and mild upsets, I'll say. Drake Ayala at 33, who's ranked number 4, beat number 2 Lucas Bird 4-2, and then Miguel Estrada, who's unranked, beat number 20 Jason Kreiser. And so, I don't know if that's an upset. He's just not maybe ranked yet, Estrada, or we haven't figured out exactly what's going to happen at 57 yet. So,
right.
So obviously he's doing a great job. I'm guessing Teamer will be in there, right? At some point
Teamer is in the probable lineup for Ohio State. Both of them are listed for Ohio State to start the week.
So, okay, that's good to hear. We had speculated that sometime in January, probably late January, he might be ready to go. So that might be one where where's the dual meet going, and before we know for sure. It might be a mat side decision whether he goes or not. So,
it could be.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Illinois. So, other than I think Keeter was just outsized in his match. That's one of the losses for Iowa. And Keeter, when he gets some mass put on him, some bulk, we all know what kind of wrestler he is, and he's going to be great. But he just kind of got bull rushed in that the one takedown that Lukman got. Who's number 11 ranked, and Keeter's number 12. So, I mean, he's right in there. But, again, it's a size thing for him there. How about your takeaways?
Well, I was very impressed with the way Ayala wrestled. That's a tough opponent. Those guys were able to dig deep and stuff. I agree with Coach Brands when he mentioned that they got to find a way to score more points. I don't know if it was a lack of offense, if Illinois was kind of clinched, trying to keep things tight, which we've seen some teams do. But they just need to find a way to score more points. I thought they've done a really good job of that until that Illinois duel. So I was a little not disappointed, but just thought that could have been better for Iowa. Joey Cruz, I know it wasn't the toughest of opponents against Illinois, but his major decision after, the win at Wisconsin against the guy that was ranked, we mentioned it last week. We kind of have an idea now that Joey Cruz is maybe kind of asserting himself as the guy at 125 now. I was impressed with the way that he came out and won by major decision. With Keeter, I'm almost getting a feeling like maybe there's a confidence issue. He did win in the finals of the Soldier Salute. Won against Wisconsin, but he started kind of shooting the low singles at the end of the match against Luffman, but you haven't really seen a lot of offense out of him. Since the finals of the Soldier Salute, he was in on a few shots, but couldn't finish. And now it's almost as if he's kind of cut back on being offensive because he's not sure if he's going to finish and if he's going to possibly give up points to some bigger heavyweights. And I just kind of wonder if that's just something that just needs to be reset mentally for him. And of course, he's going to have a tough match here against Ohio State with Feldman coming in. So I think that might be kind of a mental thing there. Also, really impressed with Estrada. Freshman. That was his first time wrestling at Carver. He's had a really good season, filling in for Teamer since the beginning of December. He gutted out a win against experienced veteran ranked wrestler. So, shows that he's capable if he needs to continue to fill in there.
Do you know, KJ, do you know how many times he's wrestled in the lineup? Is he past redshirt time, or does he even have a redshirt left? Or
well, that's an interesting point that you bring. That's a very interesting point that you brought up. So Illinois was the last freebie that he has. So if he wrestles again, that'll be burning his red shirt. So he's in the lineup. If he does go against Ohio State, that'll be his official freshman year. So he's used up all his eligible matches to still maintain his red shirt.
So he and Teamer are both listed. No, not a third, just those two.
No third.
So if Teamer doesn't wrestle, it becomes a little bit added weight to take by taking that red shirt off. Okay, so that adds a little bit more to the decision of whether Teamer goes out or not.
Yep.
So
and Tom Brand's Tuesday, he was asked about Teamer being in the probable lineups. He said, I always thought Ohio State seemed like the likely. Once we start hearing that the injury wasn't as grave as what was first thought in the Iowa State duel, Ohio State always seemed like the likely time that he might return to the lineup, just because, you wouldn't need him up until that point, and you may not even need him Saturday either. But Tom Brand's made it very clear that, hey, if he's not ready, we're not pushing it. We're not, kind of reminds me of, I always think back to the Corey Clark year, where they were very, very smart with Corey Clark with the injuries that he had and did not rush him or kind of have this, hey, I have to be in the lineup. I've got to wrestle. That I think that, Matt McDonough had. I think Matt McDonough would have benefited from maybe less action leading up to the postseason, even though he was a warrior and he stuck it out. They kind of had a different approach, I think, with Corey Clark, and look how that paid out or paid dividends in the long run and worked out in his favor as he won a national title his senior year. I think maybe that's the same way here with Teamer, that, hey, we're not going to bring him back just to bring him back. If we can't plug somebody in there and still have the success we have as a team, then there's something more wrong with the other 9 than that one weight class. So,
okay, here's
he
another.
Could be there Saturday, but they're not going to rush him. They're not going to rush him back.
And here's another. This is me. I have no idea, because I have no idea what's behind the, behind the curtains or whatever. Mm-hmm. But Teamer came to Iowa. He didn't come to Iowa just on his own, I'm guessing. There was probably some NIL money there. So that being said, again, that's just me speculating. So then now you've got this is something a coach now has to throw into the equation that I absolutely hate, and I'm guessing the coaches hate it too. But now you have to go, instead of going, what's the right decision? And I'm sure coach will do the right decision in this respect. He's going to do exactly what you said. What is the best for his health and for him? But you also got to think, okay, we've got this investment with this money that we've invested. Here's a wrestler that's hurt. We want to get him into the lineup to get our investment back. I don't. Some coaches may be thinking that. It's just for me, it's mind-boggling that we even have to go there. in
Right.
college athletics, and it's saddening, really.
But that's the landscape now. I mean, it really is. It's a layer to the onion that wasn't there before, and now with NIL and everything else, and you probably have to factor that in.
Yeah, and I'll say this just to end up on finish up the Iowa and Illinois. I thought Caliendo had again he's not afraid to put points on the board. With 20 and a tech fall there, and then Arnold. Remember, Arnold's just a freshman. Redshirt freshman, just a freshman, and he's doing some big things already, and so we can't overlook that, I guess.
Yep, a quality win there for him against Edmund Ruth. Man, I tell you what, Gabe Arnold, when he gets shots, I've seen this with Oregon State too, that he can get penetration so deep that when he hits a high crowd, he has everything clicking. He has a wrestler going over the top. I mean, he is so far deep that he's almost shooting through or past the guy, and it makes such an easy, quick finish. And he did that against Ruth for the only takedown in the match. But he's explosive, and man, can he finish quick just by the way he has things set up on his shots sometimes.
And every fan sees that and wants more. And so if Gabe can open those gates and just fire off those shots, that guy's going to be unstoppable, I think. Geez. So and you're right. It's fun to watch that.
So I don't know if you saw any of the video from the wrestler coach media availability on Tuesday. University of Iowa disseminates that on social media, but one of the things that came up talking with Gabe Arnold was the emphasis on mental health. He kind of alluded to the fact that that's been something he's kind of struggled with, or things that he's had to address. He talked about the importance of mental health. Just kind of mentioned the things that he's done. He's got great support. I think he even talked about therapy. Look for my feature leading into the whole Ohio State match on Gabe Arnold at the Gazette.com. But I just thought it was really commendable, brave for him to address that, because it's something that affects athletes in all sports at all levels. But for him to kind of address that and talk about it slightly, especially in a sport where, I think mental toughness overshadows mental health, and the fact that, you just got to push through it. You just got to be tough. You've just got to deal with it, when sometimes there are things that are more that are bigger than just it can't be addressed with just toughing it out or gutting it out. The difference, I think I said in response that mental toughness and mental health can coexist. They just have to be treated separately and addressed separately. I thought it was really interesting to see a Division I wrestler, and a successful one at that, kind of talk about, hey, there are a lot of things that we're dealing with on and off the mat, and it's okay to figure out what you need to have help with and deal with it.
Yeah, I mean that's become a focus in a lot of arenas, I guess. We look at Simone Biles, the the last
Right.
what was it where were the Olympics before last year? Anyway, with that, and calling attention to that, so that's good. Yeah,
in Tokyo.
Tokyo. Thank you.
Yep. So just really quick, looking at the upcoming matches, you've got Joey Cruz against Brendan McCrone at 125. Both, Cruz ranked in the 20s, McCrone in the teens. At 133, you've got top 10 matchup between Drake Ayala and Nick Kosakis. At 141, Jesse Mendez is ranked number one for Ohio State. Iowa has all three guys listed again: Block, Rhodes, and Shriver. 149, that's another top 10 matchup between Parco and D'Amelio. At 157, Sammy Sasso. He's returned from his adversity that he faced. And then you have Mistrada and Teamer, as we mentioned. Caliendo. What I think is interesting, Patty Gallagher now in the rankings at 165. He's moved up. At 174, you've got Kennedy and Karchla. That's now a top 10 matchup between those two guys. We mentioned Gabe Arnold. He's got Ryder Ragazzi. 197, Buchanan versus Shoemate. And then another big one, heavyweight for Keeter, Nick Feldman, who's ranked anywhere between 4 and 6 nationally. So those are your probable matchups going into Saturday with Iowa and Ohio State.
And just me going through it and penciling it out, I have Iowa favored in 5, Ohio State favored in 3, and then I had 2 toss-ups. They had at 57, besides Sasso, they had Brandon Cannon also listed. So it kind of depends on whether Sasso comes out and whether Teamer comes out. So as to who I might favor there. So right now I don't know. So since they're both kind of toss-ups, or we don't know who's going to wrestle there. And then also at 74, I had that one as a toss-up with Karchula and Kennedy. It's too close to call, really. And so, Kennedy's slightly, I think he's ranked 5th and Karchula's 7th or something in lots of polls. And so that's too close for me to call it. That could go either way. So it could be a good meet.
Oh, for sure. Another good meet that could be coming up, UNI in Oklahoma State on Friday night at the McLeod Center. First off, UNI coming off a 33-10 victory over Arizona State last Friday. Really strong performance overall. They won 7 out of 10 matches there. Got a pin from Colin Rillabuto at 149. Then quite a few Tech Falls. Ryder Downey at 157, Jared Sima at 174, Parker Keckeisen at 184, and Wyatt Volker at 197. All posted match terminations. And then you had a major decision as well from Cale Happel at 141. And he was just a point away from having another Tech fall. So a real impressive showing from UNI, who just seems to be rolling. Right, the Panther train's rolling down the tracks here, heading into that huge matchup with Okie State.
Right, and even in their losses at 125, Anderson lost to Figueroa. Am I saying that? The national champion, defending national champion, and he wrestled really well, very respectful, 11-8, and got a third period takedown and was putting it to him there. And then of course their other loss was at heavyweight. Colton Schultz, who's was a runner-up in the Greco trials, and is a 4-time All-American. And that, so respectable all the way up and down the lineup for the Panthers for sure.
Yeah, and I think Colton Schultz was a national finalist the year they were in Detroit, maybe.
I think that's right.
So yeah, you go 7-3, and 2 of your losses are to former or returning national finalists, it's not too bad. It's not too bad at all.
Right. So,
You know,
and then,
go ahead.
I was just going to go towards look at the matchup with OSU. So I don't know if you know this, KJ, but if both teams have their full lineups in, every match will feature a ranked wrestler versus a ranked wrestler.
Really?
So
that's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, and most of them don't favor UNI. Even Parker Kakaisen, who's ranked second, wrestles number Platts, who's third. And I hate to say this, Kakaisen's kind of owned Platts, but about the time you say that, like
throw the old whammy on him now.
Yeah, I don't want to do that to him. So, so nothing. That's not a given even. And but so I've got 33, 41, and 49 are all toss-ups because they're very similar. Like 33 is 19 versus 20, 41 is 5 versus 4, 49 is 14 versus 16. So those are all toss-up matches to me. And then Okie State does have the potential for some bonus point matches maybe. So hopefully UNI can reverse, not only keep them not bonus, but get a couple of wins there and win the meet. So now let's see, they wrestle Oklahoma State first, right? UNI?
Yep. So UNI will wrestle Oklahoma State on Friday, Oklahoma on Saturday. Iowa State will have Oklahoma on Friday night, then Oklahoma State on Sunday.
Yeah, that's not untypical for Iowa State to have a day in between when they do that Oklahoma swing. They're up here.
Right.
Again,
with UNI and Oklahoma State on Friday, obviously 184 is the marquee match. Is there another match that is kind of at the top of your list that you think, hey, this is one that I really, really want to see? This is kind of the co-main event. For me, it's 141.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that. But I always love watching and seeing how Johnson is progressing, and because there's times when he looks unbeatable, and then other times when he looks a little less than that. Still very good, but just a little less than that. And then I also like watching Chittum with his comeback and see how that's going. So I guess those in particular. And then I'm going to see what's happening at heavyweight. Herrera's the man, it sounds like. So even though he's got Hendrickson at heavyweight.
Just to be clear, I was talking about UNI Okie State for the 141-pound match.
I'm sorry. You were.
No, that's okay. I'm dragging. I'm falling behind a little bit with things, but yeah. Let's talk about that really quick with Iowa State. They announced a couple things Tuesday at Kevin Dresser's weekly press conference. Younger Bastida, we've kind of wondered this, especially when we noticed Herrera being in the rankings. Wondered if that was an indication that maybe Bastida would be out. That appears to be the case. He's going to get they're going to apply for a medical red shirt with his injury that he's dealt with pretty much all year. And then the other news too, Christian Carroll has left the program. He's wrestled 97 for Iowa State, but he has gone back home. Apparently, he had to figure some things out, according to Kevin Dresser, who did mention that the door is not shut on Carroll's possible return to the program, but just not for this season, obviously, since he left. So with Echemendia, who's been out, even though they've gotten some guys back in the middle of the lineup, a couple tough losses there for Iowa State going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a big question mark at 97, so that's disappointing to hear. Hopefully he can get, that young man can not only get back to on the mat, but maybe even at Iowa State again. And there's more to it. You have to remember the classroom and the academic side of it as well. So you have to regroup there, and so sometimes we forget about that, don't we?
Well, and that's too. I know this is going to sound really dopey to some followers there, but you got to remember you're dealing with 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who some of them still you still get homesick. That's something you don't think about. Sometimes you don't mesh well with teammates. Sometimes the academic load is overwhelming to balance with the rigors and time demands of Division I wrestling. And if you're far away from family, and maybe you have a parent that's also sick or something. There are a lot of factors that could really affect things, and you never know. I'm not saying any of those things are relevant to this situation. I'm just saying you got to take that into consideration when you hear news, somebody leaving the program, just because there could be a lot of things going on behind the scenes that you're not aware of that affect the status, and you just have to be pretty sensitive to stuff like that. But like you said, the biggest thing is you wish them well and hope things kind of get back in order, whether it's on the mat or off the mat.
Yes. Should we head to the meet last night that we went to see?
Yes. Well, first off, do you have predictions on Friday night at McLeod Center? Can the Panthers pull off another top 5 win?
I sure hope so, but I don't think so. I think Okie State's just got a little too much. But boy, UNI's wrestling so well right now. It's hard to say no, but it's Okie State, and David Hiller's got a pretty good team down there, and it doesn't match up favorably with UNI. But so I would say close meet, but maybe one or I'll go 20 to 14. How about that? 20 to 12. 20 to 12.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking 21-13. So I think we're really close, and I think there are a couple matches that are going to end up being close. That, hey, you never know if they get flipped. You could see a 16-15 win, but right now I'm with you. I think there's that maybe 7 to 8 point favor for Okie State when it's all said and done, but we'll see.
I think the McLeod Center is going to be rocking. Hopefully it's a sellout.
Yes. UNI deserves a sellout, by the way. Those guys, the season they put together so far, they deserve to have that place rocking and being able to compete against another top 5 team in front of a crowd like that. Let's talk about Tuesday night's duel. It was a duel that was on Iowa PBS. Our former guest Tim Johnson and Jim Miller with the call between Coe and Loris. We were both there watching that duel that came down to the very end.
Yeah, I mean, what a fun duel, fun Division III duel. And so it came down to heavyweight. And I got to tell you the story. I talked to Jim Miller after the meet, and he shared this with me about the Loris heavyweight, who I didn't recognize him, and as having been on the mat, which he had not been on the Loris mat this year. As a matter of fact, last year, the Loris coach Jaron went into the weight room and asked the football coach, says, because he didn't have a heavyweight. It was right before regionals, a week before regionals, and he said, "Do you have anyone that has wrestled in was it Colton? Let's see. Jonah Clark. Jonah Clark from Loris was there. He says, I wrestled in high school. And I can't confirm that he's a football player, but he was at least there. And he goes, I wrestled in high school. And he said, oh, yeah, how'd you do? And he goes, I took second. And he goes, Jaron says, second in what? He says, second in state. and I can confirm that he did for Waco. He was a state runner-up for Waco. Yeah, he was 47-2. And he lost to Jared Theory from Don Bosco in the 2022 state tournament. And so they got him out. He wrestled in regionals, did respectable, went 2-2, and hasn't wrestled until last night. And then the meet comes down to him, and he's wrestling a very formidable foe in Damari Dancy, and got a couple of tosses from feet for takedowns. Didn't go feet to back, but real nice tosses. They're fun to see if you're a Loris fan, and fun if you're just a wrestling fan. Probably not so fun for Cope fans, but anyway. So I thought that was quite a story. It's only other than the regional tournament last year, it's his first time wrestling.
Right, and I can confirm from another Loris athlete that he was a starter on the football team.
He was, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So,
wow.
That's
a big strong kid. So.
That's pretty amazing when you really think about that. You're just kind of shaking the bushes and rattling cages to see what you would get. Sage Walker has wrestled heavyweight at times, Eddyville, Blakesburg, Fremont champ. But then, you could see him. I didn't know who he was. Saw him kind of warming up and wondering who they would send out there, and pretty big dude. And like you said, had a couple nice throws there for takedowns that helped Loris fend off Cole there, who came on strong at the end.
Right, I think Loris won 6 out of the 10 matches, and
6 out of 10. They went back and forth, exchanging. They come out of the gate and kind of exchange wins and major decisions through the first 4 weights. Loris got a big win at 157. They also got a big win at 174 with Zeb Ganida over LJ Richardson in a battle of top 5 guys. And then Cole answered with majors from Jared Voss at 184 and Matthew Arsenal at 197, setting up that final match with a winner take all, and Clark coming through for the Dewhawks.
Right, fun meet, and that's the beauty, and a lot of Iowa high school wrestlers on both of those teams. So I love seeing that.
Oh, for sure. And of course, those teams, the Iowa Conference, I believe they have the ARC duels coming up this weekend as well.
Right. Yes, they do. And I actually asked one of the wrestlers, not that was wrestling last night, but I said, since both of these teams are at the ARC duels, will they wrestle again on Saturday? And they said, no, they're not, which makes total sense. This one needed to be its own duel. So you'll see, basically at Pella, you'll see University of Dubuque, Wartburg, Central, and BV. And then at Indianola, since you'll see, since there's 9 teams, there's 5 in Indianola. So obviously Simpson, Loris, Coe, Luther, and Nebraska Wesleyan will be there.
So that'll be fun as they kind of gear up. Their postseason is rapidly approaching as well. So no, that was a fun duel to watch, and another reason we like D3 so much, right?
Yeah, and here's, if you're not watching what's going on in Mount Vernon with Cornell, then you might want to start, because I got to tell you something. Last year, Cornell at this point, or at the end of the season, was 6-10 in duels, and so far this year they're 12-5, and they're ranked 22nd. I don't remember the last time they were ranked. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And they've beaten 4 top 20 teams this summer or this season. So Cornell and Coach Ham and Happel, I think they've got it rolling. Geez. So I'm excited with what's going on down there.
For sure. And they had their the Mike DeRoe, the Cliff Keen Mike DeRoe Invitational on Saturday there. I know they had a titleist in 197 pounder Trey Steffen. They had both finalists at 125 as well with Jace Van Pelt, and I'm blanking on the other young man's name at 25. But they had a good showing there with the DeRoe tournament.
Right. And I mean, a lot of teams there, not a whole lot of varsity, all varsity, but some varsity was there. Like Augsburg had 2 champs. Wartburg had 3 champs, including Matthew Doyle.
Matthew Doyle.
Yep. And so that was neat to see Matthew doing so well there.
Yep. Let's see. Eli Sneed, 133, also won for Cornell there, and Jason Stevens was the other 125 pounder with Jace Van Pelt. Reached the finals, and they didn't wrestle. One other note, the invite Simpson had 7 on the side. They crowned 3 games. Emily Hicks, 3, English Overmark, 207, 1 gold. It's he said he's done a great job there at Simpson with the work that he's done with the program. I don't think it was something that originally he intended to do. When he take over, he's done an absolute a great job there. The women's program.
Yeah, a little bit. You're glitching out just a little bit, KJ. So it's kind of difficult to pick you up.
Well, I was just saying that Jeff McGinnis has done a great job there at Simpson. They had 7 finalists and 3 champs over the weekend at the DeRoe, but he's done a great job there at Simpson.
Without question, and I see that he's. I think he's been appointed to one of the national boards this past week too. So I was happy to see that. He's really a strong advocate for women's wrestling in college. So.
For sure. Any other general comments about college wrestling before we jump over to the prep side really quick?
I will just add this. Loris, who just beat Co, had lost earlier. It was just the end of last week or whatever, to Central 16-15. So that, I mean, obviously you've got the top dog in the arc, and then you've got the other 3 that seem to be battling, Co, Loris, and Central. Because I think Co beat Central, so those 3 teams have done a triangle there, sort of thing. Luther was off. UD beat UW at Platteville 27-18. So nice win there for them.
For sure. Let's talk. I know we're running pretty long, but let's talk a little bit about the preps. We mentioned the Jayhawk Invitational and how Alburnett did there. Solon had the Ed Haydenfeld on Saturday as well. Clear Creek Amana won the team title there, 25.5 points over Lisbon. North Scott was 3rd. Nolan Howell at 144. Cale Nash at 132. Won titles for the Clippers. Lisbon received titles from Jack Gogol at 106. Wes Sadler at 120. Cade Happel at 126. And then Tiernan Boots at 157. Solon had a couple of champs in the upper weights. Lucas Feuerbach at 215, and then heavyweight Grant Wilson was really putting together a strong season there for the Spartans, who finished fourth.
I got to add this just because West Liberty had 2 champs. Ryan Cassidy at 13, and Briggs Collins. He was a champion for West Liberty.
Yeah, you gotta love anybody named Briggs in one way or another, right?
That's right. Yeah, I don't get a chance to say that too often. So,
one other thing I want to add about West Liberty, and I'm glad you brought them up. Riker Dangler, I believe, finished second there. He also placed pretty high at the Benton Community Tournament the week before. Do you know what separates him from some of the other wrestlers competing right now?
I know I don't think. Help me. I don't know.
Riker is also a key player on the West Liberty basketball team. So he is a point guard for the basketball team. He also is a starter at 165, I believe, 165, 175. But I'm doing a feature on him. It'll be up on the Gazette.com today. Recently, he earned his 100th career victory for wrestling, and he also set the West Liberty high school single game record for steals, all within about a week of each other. So he's, as a freshman, it was just wrestling, even though it was a hard decision for him to make, and he attended all the open gyms for basketball, even leading up to the wrestling season. His freshman year, he decided, I'm just going to wrestle. Sophomore year, he went to the open gyms again and then kind of thought, oh, man, I wonder if I could do both. And talked to the basketball coach. He goes, hey, I'm all for it. Went to Ian Alke, the wrestling coach. Dangler admitted, I was worried what Ian was going to, what Alke would say. And Alke was like, hey, if you can handle it and do it for both, then, we'll work with you. And it's worked out really well for both sides. So that's kind of neat. Watch for that feature being up later today here Wednesday at the Gazette.com.
That's cool. And I remember hearing someone doing that a few years ago, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago from Southeast Iowa. And that's the only other times I've ever heard basketball and wrestling having a shared athlete that I know of.
Well, I think Aaron Graves, who is now a D tackle for the University of Iowa, I think he might have done that for Southwest Valley. On the female side, I think there was a Slivka that was a key post player for Crestwood, and also placed at the IWCOA state tournaments before they were sanctioned. So there are just a very few examples, but it's certainly the minority in a very rare situation for somebody to excel in both during the winter sports season. So that's pretty cool.
Well, and kudos to the coaches for allowing and bending, and because that's not easy. And there's a lot of coaches out there that aren't very sharing, and not only the same season at the same time, but with other seasons.
Right.
I don't want to put a finger on any sport, but there's some coaches that'll say, no, you shouldn't go out for wrestling. I want you to do this or whatever sport. So
for sure. And just to put it in perspective, Dangler also was their starting quarterback, who was phenomenal in the fall. In addition to wrestling and basketball, he also runs track and plays baseball. So a 5-sport athlete, which is pretty cool. Let's just touch on a few other results from last weekend. Linmar had 5 champs at the Bob Sharp Invitational at Ankeny, finished 3rd there. Iowa City West also finished 3rd at the Midwest Shootout hosted by Bettendorf. They had 10 place winners overall, 9 that finished 5th or better, including champions Alexander Pierce at 120 and Justin Avila at 150. West Delaware went over to the Perry Invitational. I was really impressed by this. They scored 225.5 points, and they beat runner-up Sergeant Bluff Luton by 36.5. They got titles from Liam Weber at 157 and 215-pounder Jaron Funky.
And did you mention the Cascade tournament?
I did not.
I know you were going to mention that, but I just got to call special attention to Cedar Rapids, Washington had a champion, Wyatt Young, up there at 190. So since you and I are both Warrior alums, so to speak,
Yep.
You graduated there and I coached there. So it's nice to see that. Good for Wyatt.
Yeah, I believe he started at 215, a state qualifier from a year ago, and has made the progression down to 190. So excited to see what he does there. With Cascade, pretty nice field there overall, with Burlington Notre Dame winning the team title in front of Western Dubuque and Union Community, who finished 3rd. Union Community had a handful of champs. Coy Maylard at 6 came away with a title. He's wrestling really, really good. We mentioned last week his performance at Benton, and he's continued to roll. Braden Bonesack won at 120. Then you had Caden Jones at 126. Jace Hedeman at 132. They had a couple runner-up finishes as well, including Stratton Luke at 113. So good showing from Union Community there. I know Western Dubuque, Joe Hirsch was back in the lineup. He came away with a championship for the Bobcats. So fun event there at Cascade on Saturday.
Right. Will Casey also was a champ for Western Dubuque at 144. So they had two there.
Two champs for the
very
Bobcats.
Mm-hmm.
And then this week, coming up, the girls, on the girls' side, you'll have conference tournaments. I know Friday, the WAMAT conference tournament is going on. The MVC meet for the girls will be Saturday. That'll be at Iowa City Liberty, I believe, this weekend too. So the girls, this is their last weekend before their regional qualifier the following week. So that's coming down to the very end for girls.
And is this maybe the first year that they'll have regionals at high schools instead of the big arenas?
Yes. With the split to 2 classes, they'll have actual regionals instead of the super regionals that they've had at neutral sites and bigger venues. So now you'll have a little bit of a different feel for that qualifier. Still about 16 teams in each, but that's much smaller than before. So you'll have those on the
right.
31st. Those on the 31st.
Okay. And it's smaller because you used to have 2 regionals at one site. Now
Yes.
it's just going to be 1 regional at one site. So that's why it's smaller.
Right. Exactly. So some of the other tournaments this weekend, I know the Clyde Bean, Brad Smith duels at City High. We mentioned when we were talking to Clayton Rush, the Alburnett duels will be on this for this weekend as well. Center Port Urbana has a tournament, a dual tournament as well. Williamsburg's Raider Invitational, and Amosa has a tournament. Some of the marquee ones, though, the Ed Winger at Urbandale, the Bob Looters down at Clinton, and as we mentioned, the Bean Smith duels at City High. And the interesting thing about this is they changed the name from the Clyde Bean duels to the Bean Smith duels to honor Brad Smith, who had retired and was a longtime coach there at City High. Now he's going to be coaching in it, coming back out of retirement, obviously, this year, as we've talked about before, with Clear Creek Amana being in the field, with Ankeny, Mount Vernon, Kennedy, Newton, Oskaloosa, Ottumwa, Prairie, and Xavier.
Yeah, I was teasing Smitty. I was at the tournament at Haydenfeld last weekend and teasing him about coming out of retirement to pad his wins total. He laughed.
Oh, of course. Any other meets that kind of stand out to you this weekend?
No.
I know
Haydenfeld's always been a biggie this weekend, and so I mean not Haydenfeld. I mean the winger, Ed Winger. It's always been a big one this weekend. So.
Yep, and just looking at the teams that'll be there at Urbandale, you've got Bettendorf will be there. Bondurant Farrar, who is at Jefferson. You got Carlisle, Dallas Center Grimes, who's wrestled really well here in the area the last 2 weeks. Fort Dodge, who has Deshaun Ross back. He was the Wyatt Schultz outstanding wrestler at Jefferson, kind of rolling through that bracket. So it was cool to see him back for the Dodgers. You also have Waverly Shell Rock, Joaquin Northwest in that field at and Lewis Central, Johnston in that field at the Ed Winger. The Looters, that's Clinton puts together. This has been a big tournament for years, obviously. Linmar will be down there, so will Iowa City West. You've got Davenport Assumption. Pleasant Valley will be there as well. Iowa City Regina's in the field, as well as some schools from Illinois and Wisconsin. So nice competition before all our area teams getting ready for their conference meets the following weekend. So any other last items or final thoughts? This week.
My final thought is I think we're up to double digits in temperature, so we get to go out and shovel at least when it's not negative whatever. So
yeah, some bitter cold the last couple of days, but it looks like that's climbing. So looking forward to that. And not only are the temperatures heating up a little bit, but so is the action here on the boys and girls front as we get closer to the postseason. So it'll be a fun time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, hey, want to thank everybody. Want to thank Clayton Rush from Alburnett joining us this week. Obviously, great things going on there with the Pirates. He's always fun to talk to. A lot of action on the college and high school level going on. So make sure you get out and watch that, witness that, take that in when you can. And on behalf of Dick Briggs, I'm KJ Pilcher with the Gazette. We'd like to thank everybody for watching. We get to do this because of and for you guys. So thank you for watching each week. And as always, Coach Briggs, take us out.
Let's keep wrestling on the move.